4:10 local time. Strait of Hormuz. The sea is black glass under a fading moon. Tanker lights drifting slow across the water like floating cities. On the surface, everything looks routine. Commerce, patrols, radar sweeps, quiet voices on encrypted nets. But in less than 20 minutes, this narrow channel will become a storm front of steel, fire, and panic. 5,000 Delta Force operators are moving toward the region's most contested choke point on a mission so audacious it borders on insanity. Then the trap snaps shut. What happens next rewrites every assumption about special operations in modern war. Imagine you're here. You can smell jet fuel hanging over the decks, salt in the air, diesel from escort ships pushing through the darkness. To the north, Iran's coastline sits low and jagged, layered with missile batteries. Radar stations, fast attack craft pens, and hardened tunnels carved into mountain rock. To the south, Gulf shipping lanes carry a huge share of the world's seaborne oil traffic through a waterway so narrow, so economically critical, that even a few hours of disruption can ripple across markets from London to Singapore. This is why Hormuz matters. At its tightest, the strait is only a few dozen miles wide, with designated shipping lanes even narrower. Every navy in the region understands the math. Every intelligence service studies the coastline. Every planner knows that if conflict erupts here, it will happen fast, in layers, and under the pressure of global consequences. Tonight, the American presence is immense but deliberately distributed. A carrier strike group operates in support range to the southeast. A guided missile destroyer patrols with Aegis tracking active. P-8 maritime patrol aircraft are rotating over the Gulf. F-35s and F-A-18s sit armed at regional bases. MQ-9s watch coastal movement from altitude. Tankers orbit farther back. Satellites pass overhead in cold silence. Beneath the water, attack submarines are already in position, invisible and patient. And then there's the mission nobody outside the chain of command is supposed to know. Operation Iron Lantern. 5,000 Delta Force personnel is not a normal raiding package. Not even close. Delta is an elite unit, and in reality, missions of this sensitivity would be smaller, quieter, surgical. But this is a fictional scenario, and in this scenario, America has assembled a massive composite special operations strike force under Delta Command architecture for a once-in-a-generation objective. Seize, disable, or mark critical coastal anti-ship missile nodes, drone launch facilities, and command relays along the Iranian side of the strait in a single synchronized blow. Fast boats, stealth insertion craft, rotary wing assault packages staged offshore, mini-sub delivery teams, long-range fires waiting behind them. A gamble designed to decapitate an anti-access network before it can close Hormuz. Bold? Absolutely. Safe? Not even remotely. And here's the political context driving it. Weeks of escalating drone harassment, merchant vessels shadowed, navigation interference rising, one tanker struck by a limpet-style device, and another boarded briefly by armed personnel before international pressure forces release. Insurance rates spike, oil jumps, capitals start calling. Military commanders warn that the longer the anti-ship missile network remains intact, the more leverage Tehran gains without crossing into outright conventional war. So, the fictional decision is made. Hit the network first, hit it hard, and restore deterrence before shipping collapses. But from the other side of the water, there is no confusion at all. Iran's planners have been waiting for exactly this kind of move. In a hardened command center inland, lit by wall displays and low-red bulbs, officers study an operational picture assembled over months. Commercial traffic anomalies, drone patrol patterns, American ISR rhythms, acoustic signatures in known transit corridors, and heat blooms from temporary staging areas, false transmissions meant to flush responses. They don't know every detail, but they know enough. They believe a major infiltration attempt is coming, and they've built a plan around letting it begin. That's the bait. The trap is deeper. Instead of contesting the outer approach aggressively, the defenders thin visible patrols in several sectors, creating the illusion of exploitable gaps. Some radar emitters go dark, not because they're blind, but because they want to appear blind. Fast boats disperse. Missile crews remain silent. Drone launch activity falls off. To American planners, it looks like caution, maybe even hesitation. But under camouflage netting and inside revetments, the real architecture waits. Coastal defense cruise missiles dispersed in redundant clusters. Mobile ballistic missile launchers pre-sighted. Passive sensors feeding centralized AI-assisted fusion. Fiber-linked command nodes buried beneath layers of rock. one-way attack drones pre-programmed for maritime swarming, naval mines in reserve, electronic warfare teams positioned to distort, delay, and confuse exactly when timing matters most. From the Iranian perspective, the objective is simple. Let the raiders commit. Let the helicopters rise. Let the stealth craft cross the final line. Then isolate the force inside a kill box bounded by shoreline batteries, drone swarms, anti-ship missiles, coastal artillery, and electronic attack. Destroy enough high-value assets to create shock. Survive the counterblow long enough to claim strategic victory, not by winning a war, but by proving the strait can be closed at will. They think they can do it because they believe special operations, once trapped in coastal congestion, lose the one advantage they depend on most: freedom of movement. And for a few minutes, that confidence feels justified. But they overlooked something. Not courage, not numbers, information. The flaw in their thinking is that American forces are not entering blind. They are entering watched by systems that don't sleep, don't blink, and don't interpret the battlefield one radar return at a time. Space-based infrared tracks heat where launchers thought they were hidden. Signals intelligence maps brief bursts of command traffic. Synthetic aperture radar sees through darkness and haze. Acoustic libraries classify engine types. Pattern analysis flags the deliberate silence itself as an anomaly. In trying to appear inactive, the defenders create a signature of deception. Here's what they got wrong. The trap is visible before it closes. At 4:23, the first warning reaches a maritime fusion cell aboard the destroyer. An offshore MQ-9 relays unusual vehicle spacing along 3 coastal roads north of Bandar-e Jask. 31 seconds later, overhead infrared detects transient thermal spikes consistent with recently powered missile support vehicles. At 0424, a P-8 processing team correlates that movement with passive emitter geolocation from earlier in the night. At 4:25, national assets confirm multiple concealed launch clusters in depth, 4 seconds. That's all it takes for the picture to change from raid support to imminent regional engagement. You're there now. Screens bloom from green to amber to red. Headsets tighten. A watch officer leans over a console and says the words everybody trains for, but nobody wants to hear in a real channel that narrow. Possible kill box activation. Then the alert cascade begins. Carrier air wing notified. Aegis ships shift posture. Patriot batteries at partner installations receive early warning. THAAD crews go active. Electronic warfare aircraft spool. Fighter patrols are redirected toward launch baskets. Helicopter assault timelines freeze pending confirmation. Surface escorts accelerate. Submarines receive pre-planned execute criteria. In command centers across the Gulf, the atmosphere changes in an instant from preparation to combustion. Could you make that call? Continue the mission and risk 5,000 operators inside a closing ambush, or abort and concede the initiative? The answer comes at 4:27. I'd abort the deep insertion, preserve the force, transition to defensive counteroffensive operations. That decision saves lives. It also triggers the first visible move of the battle, because the moment the assault package begins to pivot away, the coastline erupts. One launch, then 6, then 18, then too many to count with the naked eye. From hidden racks, coastal defense cruise missiles rip seaward on low trajectories, engines burning white in the dark. Attack drones rise behind them in staggered layers, tiny compared with the missiles but lethal in numbers. Farther inland, mobile launchers fire short-range ballistic missiles on lofted arcs toward airfields, logistics hubs, and naval concentrations meant to blind and overload regional defenses. Electronic attack washes across parts of the battle space, flooding channels with false tracks, noise, and interference. The sky over Hormuz doesn't explode all at once. It builds. First the sound, distant and wrong like ripping fabric magnified across open water. Then contrails. Then radar scopes crowded with symbols. Then human realization, incoming, multiple vectors. This is real. But the defense is layered for exactly this kind of nightmare. At the top of the stack, space and airborne sensors maintain the track file. Aegis combat systems assign intercept priorities. Data flows across networks linking ships, aircraft, and ground batteries into a single defensive organism. That matters more than any individual missile. This is not one radar fighting one target. This is system integration at combat speed. High and fast threats are engaged first. An SEM-3 and SEM-6 interceptors climb from vertical launch cells, punching upward with brutal acceleration. Their job is to break the ballistic attack before re-entry compresses the timeline. On remote islands and regional positions, THAAD crews launch in disciplined sequence, intercepting outside the densest threat zones when geometry allows. You're in that command center, heart pounding, watching the countdowns collapse. 70 seconds, 42, 29. One ballistic track vanishes, then another, then three more. Lower down, Patriot PAC-3 batteries take the next layer. These are terminal defenders, brutal and precise, designed to hit incoming missiles in the last critical window before impact. Launchers shudder, white spears leap into the dawn, radar updates in fractions of a second. Fire control solutions stack on top of one another so fast the human ear only catches fragments of what the crews are saying. Track confirmed. Engage. Splash. Next, out over the Gulf, destroyers and cruisers become floating fortresses. Aegis keeps feeding the intercept web. Standard missiles reach out against cruise threats skimming over black water. Evolved Sea Sparrow missiles are held for leakers. Close-in weapon systems stand ready as the final mechanical prayer. 6-barrel guns capable of turning the air into a wall of tungsten if anything gets through. And then the fighters arrive. F-35s from forward bases, already airborne or scrambled within minutes, push into the eastern approach lanes with sensor fusion giving them a terrifying edge in target discrimination. F/A-18. Super Hornets join from the carrier deck cycle. Their job is not glamorous. It is essential. Intercept drones, kill launch aircraft if any appear, strike mobile emitters when coordinates stabilize, extend the defensive perimeter so ships and coastal bases aren't forced to absorb every threat themselves. Now shift perspective. From the attacking side, the opening looks promising. Saturation is working. There are simply too many things in the air. Drones weave low, cruise missiles split lanes, ballistic shots force defenders to divide attention. A few tracks disappear into clutter. Maybe enough survive. Maybe one gets through to a flight line. Maybe two strike a ship. Maybe the psychological effect alone is enough. That hope lasts minutes. Because layered defense doesn't rely on perfection. It relies on compression, redundancy, and math. Their 52 missiles meet 240 interceptors and countless sensor updates. A ratio that tells its own story. Add more than 180 one-way attack drones to the equation, and the battlefield becomes less a duel than a technological purge. Minute 4, first ballistic wave broken high. Minute 7, 7 drones shredded by fighters before reaching terminal lanes. Minute 9, 2 cruise missiles slip low behind clutter, then disappear under ship-launched interceptors. Minute 12, Patriot batteries kill 3 descending threats in rapid succession over the Gulf Coast. Minute 15, naval guns open on surviving drones inside the last envelope. Minute 18, 1 leaker detonates near a logistics pier, causing localized damage but no strategic paralysis. Minute 21, a second impacts open ground near a support complex. Minute 23, all inbound tracks either destroyed, diverted, or stripped of operational effect. Final tally in the first exchange. 52 missiles launched, 49 destroyed, 3 penetrate, 0 decisive impact. And the operators? The 5,000 at the center of the original raid package are already pulling clear under cover of electronic shielding, escort fires, and a rapidly changing air picture. Some were minutes from entering the deadliest part of the zone. Minutes. Less time than it takes to finish a cup of coffee on watch. Less time than your commute through one city block at rush hour. That is how close this fictional disaster comes. Then comes the part every adversary fears. Authorization. Because surviving the first salvo is one thing, surviving what follows is another. The request moves up the chain fast, maritime commander to regional command. A regional command to national authority. Not a question of whether to respond, but how far, how deep, how public, how fast. The calculation is cold, because it has to be. Restore deterrence, reopen confidence in shipping, destroy the ability to repeat the attack, avoid unnecessary expansion if possible. Be overwhelming enough that no second strike seems rational, authorization granted, and with that, the character of the battle changes completely. This is no longer a defense, this is systematic erasure. Submarines launch first, land attack cruise missiles rise from beneath the water and race toward pre-assigned command nodes, radar hubs, and hardened communication relays. Minutes later, destroyers add their own salvos, saturating critical coastal infrastructure from multiple azimuths, so even hardened sites are forced to divide what little active defense remains. In the air, B-52HS and stealth bombers, held outside immediate threat envelopes, contribute standoff weapons against deeper fixed targets. Carrier aircraft surge in coordinated waves. F-35s hunt mobile launchers using fused ISR and cueing from drones overhead. EA-18G Growlers tear into the electromagnetic environment, suppressing radars and isolating batteries before they can relocate. Tankers keep the whole machine alive. This is modern war's real power, not one platform, but an ecosystem. Target Set 1, coastal anti-ship missile batteries. Target Set 2, drone launch compounds and storage revetments. Target Set 3, command and control bunkers. Target Set 4, air defense radars supporting future denial operations. Target Set 5, logistics choke points feeding reload capacity, bases to production, production to command chain to future capability denial. Not a battle, not a test, an execution. You can see it in sequence if you're watching the operations feed. One missile battery goes dark after a bunker-penetrating strike caves in its access tunnel. A drone launch strip erupts as secondary explosions ripple through fuel and munition storage. A mobile launcher tries to reposition under camouflage and is caught by a loitering sensor track, then finished by an F-35 guided weapon before it clears the road cut. Fiber-linked command nodes lose synchronization. Shore-based radars blink off. Fast attack craft remain in harbor, and then remain there permanently after precision strikes crater piers and ignite support sheds. For every one of theirs, 25 of ours, and that comparison matters because it reveals the real lesson. Once the defenders lose information, dominance, and coordinated fires, the illusion of coastal control evaporates. The trap only works if the jaws stay connected. Break the sensors from the shooters from the commanders from the logistics, and the ambush becomes a graveyard of isolated units waiting to be found. What about the human side? It's easy to turn all this into icons on screens. Harder to remember that every cockpit contains a pilot managing fuel, threat warnings, and the knowledge that one mistake ends everything. Every destroyer console has sailors making split-second decisions with families half a world away. Every special operator packed into those assault craft understands what it means to get recalled from the edge of a hot landing zone because somewhere above them, somebody saw the future early enough. That matters too. Technology is powerful, but discipline is what stops panic from becoming defeat. By 5:05 local time, just 42 minutes after the first warning sign, the battle space looks completely different from the calm sea we started with. Smoke rises from multiple points along the coast. Surviving hostile units are scattering inland. Commercial shipping is temporarily rerouted under military escort corridors. Air superiority in the immediate zone is uncontested. Maritime patrols expand. Minesweep support begins. Diplomatic channels are already flooding with denials, accusations, emergency consultations, and demands for restraint. The numbers are brutal. Operation duration from first confirmed anomaly to suppression of main hostile coastal fires, 42 minutes. Hostile launch package, 52 missiles, more than 180 drones, multiple electronic attack cells. A defensive result, 49 missiles destroyed before meaningful effect, remaining impacts localized and strategically negligible. Counter-strike result in this fictional scenario. 14 missile sites neutralized, 9 drone facilities destroyed or rendered inoperable, 6 primary radar nodes knocked out, 4 command bunkers collapsed or isolated, dozens of mobile systems abandoned, hidden, or hunted beyond immediate relevance. And the 5,000 Delta Force operators the title began with? They survive because the mission changes in time. They do not become the spear. They become the bait that reveals the ambush, then the force preserved for the next phase. That is the difference between mythology and command judgment. In movies, you charge ahead because momentum feels heroic. In real military thinking, even fictionalized here, the most powerful order can be a recall issued 60 seconds before catastrophe. So, what does this reveal about future conflict in places like Hormuz? That geography still matters. Choke points still matter. Numbers still matter. But above all, connection matters. The side that sees first, fuses fastest, and shifts posture without hesitation doesn't just survive saturation attacks. It dismantles them. Modern war is no longer about the strongest individual weapon on the map. It is about who can turn sensors, people, doctrine, aircraft, ships, and missiles into one continuous decision loop while the other side is still congratulating itself on a clever trap. Iran, in this fictional scenario, made the classic miscalculation. It assumed access denial alone could shape the battle. It assumed surprise would compensate for integration gaps. It assumed a kill box on the map guaranteed a kill in reality. But a trap is only as good as the intelligence behind it. And when that intelligence fails, the hunter becomes the target. That's the real lesson here. Not swagger, not spectacle, not blind faith in hardware. The lesson is that overconfidence near a strategic choke point can trigger a chain reaction so violent, so fast, that 42 minutes is all it takes to go from calculated gambit to catastrophic exposure. On less than your lunch break, less than a short ferry crossing, less than one quiet Gulf sunrise. What does this reveal about future conflicts? Let's discuss. Subscribe for more strategic analysis.